Sarah Jones loved being a nurse. For 15 years, she worked at City Hospital, taking care of sick people with kindness and skill. Everyone knew Sarah as the nurse who always went the extra mile. Doctors trusted her, and patients felt safe when she was around. Sarah lived alone in a small house near the hospital. She didn't have much family, so her coworkers and patients became like family to her. Every morning, she woke up at 5:30 a.m., made a cup of coffee, and got ready for her day with a smile. Being a nurse wasn't just a job for Sarah, it was who she was. On a stormy Tuesday night, Sarah was working the night shift. Rain pounded against the windows, and thunder shook the building. Around 10 p.m., the emergency room doors burst open. Ambulances arrived with many hurt people from a big car crash on the highway. Doctors and nurses ran to help. "Sarah, we need you in room 3. Dr. Miller shouted over the noise. Sarah rushed to the room where a young man lay unconscious, bleeding badly. His name was Michael Chen, according to his driver's license. He was only 26 years old. "He has internal bleeding," Dr. Miller said quickly. "I'm ordering 10 milligrams of caprofen and blood transfusion. Start it right away while I check the other crash victims." Sarah prepared the medicine, but something felt wrong. She looked at Michael's pale face, and then at his chart. Something caught her eye. A note about an unusual reaction to a blood test last year. Sarah had seen this pattern before. If Michael was given caprofen with his specific blood work results, he might have a deadly reaction. Sarah tried to find Dr. Miller, but he was in surgery with another crash victim. Michael's blood pressure started dropping fast. The machines beeped loudly. Sarah had only minutes to make a decision. "I need Beneral instead of caprofen," Sarah told the other nurse, "and get me the alternative transfusion kit." But Dr. Miller ordered caprofen, the young nurse said, looking worried. "Trust me," Sarah said firmly. "I've seen this reaction before. If we give him caprofen, we might lose him." Sarah knew she was breaking hospital rules. Nurses weren't supposed to change doctors' orders, but she also knew Michael might die if she didn't act quickly. With steady hands, she gave Michael the different medicine and watched the monitors closely. 5 minutes passed, 10 minutes. Then Michael's blood pressure began to stabilize. Color returned to his face. By the time Dr. Miller returned an hour later, Michael was stable. "What happened?" Dr. Miller asked, looking at the charts. "I ordered caprofen." Sarah explained her decision calmly. "I noticed a pattern in his blood work similar to a case I saw 3 years ago. Caprofen would have caused a severe reaction because of his blood protein levels." Dr. Miller frowned. "You should have called me first." "There wasn't time, doctor. His pressure was dropping too fast." Later that night, blood tests confirmed Sarah was right. Michael had a rare protein in his blood that would have reacted badly with caprofen. Her quick thinking had saved his life. When Sarah's shift ended at 7 a.m., she felt tired but happy. Michael was now awake and talking to his parents who had arrived at the hospital. They thanked Sarah with tears in their eyes. "Just doing my job," Sarah said with a small smile. She walked home in the morning light, thinking this was why she became a nurse. She had no idea that by tomorrow afternoon, her life would completely change. Sarah slept deeply after her long night shift. The sound of her phone ringing woke her at 1 p.m. She reached for it, still half asleep. "Hello, Sarah. It's Nancy from HR. You need to come to the hospital right away. Mr. Peterson wants to see you in his office at 2 p.m. Sarah sat up, suddenly awake. Frank Peterson was the hospital director. Getting called to his office was never good news. "What is this about?" Sarah asked. "I can't say on the phone. Just please come in," Nancy said, her voice stiff. Sarah took a quick shower and put on her best clothes. Her stomach felt tight with worry. The whole way to the hospital, her mind raced. Was this about Michael? About the medicine she changed? She had saved his life, but she knew she had broken a hospital rule. When Sarah arrived, she saw some of her coworkers in the hallway. They looked at her with sad eyes, but quickly looked away. No one spoke to her. The walk to Mr. Peterson's office felt like the longest walk of her life. Inside the office, Mr. Peterson sat behind his big desk. Dr. Miller stood near the window, arms crossed. A woman Sarah didn't know sat in a corner with a notebook. "Sit down, Ms. Jones," Mr. Peterson said, not smiling. Sarah sat, her hands folded in her lap to hide their shaking. "Do you know why you're here?" he asked. "I think it's about what happened with Michael Chen last night," Sarah said. Mr. Peterson nodded. "You changed a doctor's orders without permission. You gave a patient different medicine than what was prescribed." "Yes, but—" "There are no buts here, Ms. Jones," Mr. Peterson cut her off. "We have clear rules. Nurses do not change doctors' orders without proper approval." Dr. Miller stepped forward. "Sarah, what you did was dangerous. You took a huge risk." "But it wasn't a risk," Sarah said. "I knew from his blood work that caprofen would harm him. The test results this morning proved I was right." "That's not the point," Mr. Peterson said. "The point is that you broke the chain of command. What if you had been wrong?" "But I wasn't wrong," Sarah said, her voice getting stronger. "Michael Chen would have died if I followed those orders." The woman in the corner spoke up. "Hospital Policy Section 42B clearly states that all medical staff must follow the established hierarchy of decisions. Nurses must consult with doctors before changing any treatment plan." "There wasn't time to consult," Sarah explained. "Michael was crashing. His blood pressure was dropping fast." Mr. Peterson shook his head. "We can't have nurses deciding they know better than doctors. It undermines our whole system." Sarah felt tears coming to her eyes, but she blinked them back. "So what happens now?" Mr. Peterson slid a paper across the desk. "I'm sorry, Sarah, but we have to let you go. 15 years of service or not, we can't keep staff who don't follow the rules." Sarah stared at the paper. It was a termination notice. She was being fired. After 15 years, after saving a young man's life, she was losing her job. "The Chen family is very grateful," Sarah said quietly. "They know I saved their son's life. And we're glad the patient is okay," Mr. Peterson said. "But that doesn't change hospital policy." Dr. Miller looked uncomfortable. "For what it's worth, Sarah, I checked the blood work. You were right about the reaction, but I can't override hospital policy." Sarah stood up, her legs feeling weak. "So you're firing me for saving someone's life?" "We're firing you for breaking protocol," Mr. Peterson corrected. "Please clear out your locker by the end of the day." Sarah walked out of the office with her head high, but her heart was breaking. 15 years of her life, her identity as a nurse, all gone in one meeting. As she walked to her locker, some nurses gave her quick hugs or whispered support, but most stayed away, afraid for their own jobs. By 3 p.m., Sarah walked out of City Hospital with a small box of her things, no longer a nurse. The job she loved was gone, and she had no idea what she would do next. The days after Sarah lost her job were very hard. She woke up each morning at 5:30 a.m. out of habit, but had nowhere to go. Her small house, once a cozy place to rest between shifts, now felt like a prison. The walls seemed to close in on her each day. News about Sarah's firing spread quickly in the small town. Some people stopped her at the grocery store to say they were sorry. Others crossed the street to avoid talking to her. Sarah started shopping late at night just to avoid seeing people she knew. At home, Sarah's phone rang often. Some of her old coworkers called to check on her. A few even said they wanted to quit their jobs because of how the hospital treated her. Sarah told them not to. "Don't throw away your jobs for me," she told her friend Maria, a nurse who had worked with her for 10 years. "The patients need good nurses like you." But as the days passed, fewer people called. Life at the hospital went on without her. Sarah's savings would last a few months, but then what? She was 45 years old. Who would hire a nurse who had been fired for breaking rules? Sarah tried applying for nursing jobs at other places. She sent her resume to clinics, nursing homes, and even schools. But no one called her back. It seemed the story of why she was fired had spread to every medical place in town. One night, Sarah found herself looking at old photos from her nursing school graduation. She had been so proud that day, so full of hope. Now she felt empty. Sarah put the photos away and cried herself to sleep. 3 weeks after being fired, Sarah ran out of food. She had been avoiding the grocery store, but she couldn't put it off any longer. She waited until 9 p.m., hoping the store would be almost empty. As she pushed her cart down the cereal aisle, Sarah heard someone call her name. She looked up to see an older woman walking toward her. It took a moment for Sarah to recognize Mrs. Chen, Michael's grandmother. "Sarah, I've been hoping to find you," Mrs. Chen said, taking Sarah's hands in hers. "My family has been looking for you." Sarah tried to smile. "How is Michael doing?" "He's wonderful. Back at college already. The doctors say he has made a full recovery." Mrs. Chen squeezed Sarah's hands. "We know what you did for him. And we know what happened to you because of it." Sarah looked down. "I was just doing my job." "No," Mrs. Chen said firmly. "You were doing more than your job. You were being the true healer. My son David has been trying to contact you. He wants to thank you properly." Sarah had seen the missed calls from numbers she didn't know. She had ignored them all, thinking they were bill collectors or reporters. "Here," Mrs. Chen said, writing a number on the back of a receipt. "This is David's number. Please call him tomorrow. It's very important." Sarah took the paper to be polite. She didn't plan to call. What good would it do? A thank you wouldn't give her back her job or her purpose. As Sarah paid for her groceries, the young cashier looked at her strangely. "Are you the nurse who got fired?" he asked. "My cousin was in that car crash. He said you were the best nurse he ever had." Sarah just nodded and took her bags. Outside, the night air felt cool on her face. She put her groceries in her car and sat there for a long time, thinking about Mrs. Chen and the note in her pocket. When Sarah got home, she put the groceries away and made a cup of tea. She sat at her kitchen table and stared at the phone number. Part of her wanted to throw it away. What was the point? But another part of her, a small voice that was getting quieter each day, told her to make the call. Sarah sighed and picked up her phone. Maybe talking to Michael's father would give her some closure. Then she could start figuring out what to do with the rest of her life, a life that no longer included being a nurse. Sarah didn't call David Chen the next day, or the day after that. The little piece of paper with his number sat on her kitchen table, making her feel guilty every time she looked at it. A week passed this way. One morning, Sarah's phone rang. It was Maria from the hospital. "Sarah, you need to see the newspaper today," Maria said, her voice excited. "Why? What's happened?" Sarah asked. "Just get it. Front page. Call me after you read it." Sarah walked to the end of her driveway in her bathrobe and picked up the newspaper. There on the front page was a big picture of Michael Chen in his college basketball uniform. The headline read, "Local student returns to court after near-death experience." Sarah's hands shook as she read the story. It told about the big car crash and how Michael almost died. Then she saw her own name in print. "The quick thinking of Nurse Sarah Jones saved my life," Michael was quoted saying. "She noticed something in my blood work that would have made the normal medicine kill me. She broke hospital rules to save me, and they fired her for it. That's not right." The article went on to say that Michael's father, David Chen, a successful business owner, was speaking out against the hospital. He called Sarah a hero and said the hospital's policy was wrong. Sarah sat on her front step, reading the article over and over. She felt a strange mix of feelings. Happy that people were supporting her, but also worried about more attention. She didn't want to be the center of a big fight. She just wanted her life back. Her phone rang again. This time, it was a number she didn't know. "Hello," she answered carefully. "Ms. Jones, this is David Chen, Michael's father. I've been trying to reach you." Sarah took a deep breath. Yes, Mr. Chen. I'm sorry I didn't call you. I just saw the newspaper article. Please, call me David, he said. And that's why I'm calling. I hope the article wasn't too much. Michael insisted on telling his story. It's fine, Sarah said, though she wasn't sure if it was. I'm glad Michael is doing well. Thanks to you, David said. Look, Ms. Jones, Sarah, my family, and I would like to meet with you. Could we come by your house tomorrow? Say around 2 p.m. Sarah hesitated. She hadn't had visitors in weeks. Her house was a mess, and so was she. I don't know, Mr. Chen. Please, David cut in. It's important. We won't take much of your time. Something in his voice made Sarah agree. Okay, 2 o'clock tomorrow. After hanging up, Sarah looked around her small house with new eyes. Dirty dishes filled the sink. Clothes were scattered on the couch. Empty food boxes sat on the coffee table. She hadn't cleaned since losing her job. She hadn't cared enough to try. But now, with visitors coming, Sarah felt a small spark inside her. She spent the rest of the day cleaning. She washed dishes, did laundry, and even mopped the floors. For the first time in weeks, she took a long shower and fixed her hair. That night, Sarah couldn't sleep. Why did the Chen family want to see her? Was it just to say thank you? Or did they want something else? Sarah tossed and turned, wondering what tomorrow would bring. Morning came, and Sarah got up early. She made coffee and baked some cookies from a mix she found in her pantry. At 1:30, she changed her outfit 3 times, finally settling on a simple blue dress she used to wear to church. At exactly 2 p.m., Sarah heard cars pulling up outside her house. She peeked through the curtains and gasped. There wasn't just one car. There were at least 10 vehicles parked along her street. What was happening? Sarah's doorbell rang. Her hands shaking, she walked to the door and opened it. David Chen stood there smiling, with Michael beside him. And behind them was a crowd of people filling her front yard. Sarah stood frozen at her open door. David and Michael Chen smiled at her, but she couldn't take her eyes off the crowd behind them. There were at least 30 people on her small front lawn. What is all this? Sarah asked, her voice barely a whisper. David Chen stepped forward. These are people whose lives you've touched, Sarah. People who want to thank you. Sarah recognized some faces from the hospital, patients she had cared for over the years. An older man in a wheelchair waved at her. It was Mr. Wilson, who had been in the hospital for 3 months last year after a bad car crash. Next to him was Mrs. Parker, who Sarah had helped through a difficult cancer treatment. We're here to thank you, Michael said, and to show you something important. Sarah stepped outside, still confused. A small girl broke away from the crowd and ran to Sarah, hugging her legs. Nurse Sarah, remember me? I'm Lily. The child looked up with bright eyes. Sarah remembered her well. Lily had been in the hospital with a high fever last winter. Sarah had stayed past her shift to sit with the scared child when her parents needed to go home for a few hours. Of course I remember you, Lily, Sarah said, bending down to hug the girl. You're so much bigger now. An older woman approached next. You took care of my Henry before he passed, she said, holding Sarah's hand. You made his last days peaceful. I never forgot that. One by one, people came forward to share their stories. A young man thanked Sarah for catching a mistake in his medicine that would have caused an allergic reaction. A teenage girl said Sarah had been the only nurse who could find her veins for blood draws without hurting her. Sarah felt tears rolling down her cheeks. For weeks, she had felt worthless and forgotten. Now her small front yard was full of people who remembered her kindness and skill. After many hugs and thank yous, David Chen raised his hand for quiet. Sarah, we're not just here to say thank you. We're here because we need you. Need me? Sarah asked, but I'm not a nurse anymore. That's what we want to talk about, David said. He pulled out some papers from his jacket pocket. After what happened with Michael, I started looking into hospital policies. I found out that many hospitals have rules that don't let nurses use their judgment, even in emergencies. Michael stepped forward. If you had followed the rules that night, I would have died. The medicine the doctor ordered would have killed me because of my rare blood condition. David nodded. When the newspaper story came out, these people and many others called me. They all had stories about how you helped them, sometimes by following your instincts instead of just following orders. An older doctor that Sarah recognized from the hospital stepped through the crowd. It was Dr. Rodriguez, who had retired last year after 40 years at City Hospital. Sarah, he said, what the hospital did to you was wrong. Good medicine isn't just about following rules. It's about using judgment and experience. That's what makes a great nurse. Sarah felt overwhelmed. After weeks of shame and doubt, hearing these words meant everything to her. David Chen handed Sarah the papers he was holding. We have a proposal for you. My family owns a building on Main Street that used to be a small medical office. We want to open a new clinic there, focused on patient care rather than rigid rules. Sarah looked down at the papers. They were plans for a new medical clinic. We need someone to help run it, David continued. Someone who puts patients first. Someone like you. Sarah couldn't believe what she was hearing. These people hadn't just come to thank her. They had come to offer her a new start. But I can't. I'm not a doctor, Sarah stammered. I can't run a clinic. Dr. Rodriguez smiled. You wouldn't be alone. I've agreed to come out of retirement to help. And there are 3 other doctors from City Hospital who want to join us. We already have funding, David added. Many people in this community are ready to support a clinic that treats patients like people, not just cases to process. Sarah looked around at the faces watching her. People she had helped, people who believed in her. For the first time in weeks, hope sparked inside her. Sarah invited everyone into her small house and yard. Her neighbors brought out extra chairs. Someone went for pizza and soda. What started as a surprise visit turned into an impromptu party. For the first time since losing her job, Sarah found herself laughing and talking with people who cared about her. As the evening went on, David Chen showed Sarah more plans for the new clinic. We want to call it First Care Clinic because patients come first, he explained. We've already found a good building. It needs some work, but it has enough space for 6 exam rooms, a small lab, and a comfortable waiting area. Dr. Rodriguez sat with Sarah on her front porch steps. I've been watching how City Hospital has changed over the years, he said. More rules, less care. That's why I retired early. But this new clinic, this could be something special. Sarah looked through the papers with growing interest. But what about the hospital? Won't they try to stop this? David smiled. They can't stop us from opening a clinic, and after the newspaper story, they might not want to try. They've been getting angry calls and letters from people all week. As night fell, people started to leave. Each person hugged Sarah before going. Think about our offer, David said as he and Michael prepared to leave. We're having a meeting tomorrow at my office to discuss more details. Will you come? Sarah nodded. I'll be there. After everyone left, Sarah sat alone in her living room. Her house felt different now. Not empty and sad, but full of new possibilities. She picked up the clinic plans again and stayed up late reading every detail. The next morning, Sarah put on her best outfit and drove to Chen Enterprises, David's business office downtown. She felt nervous but excited, feelings she hadn't experienced in weeks. 8 people sat around a large table in the conference room. David and Michael Chen, Dr. Rodriguez, 2 other doctors Sarah recognized from City Hospital, a young woman Sarah didn't know, and to her surprise, Maria, her friend from the hospital. Maria, Sarah exclaimed. What are you doing here? Maria hugged her. I quit City Hospital yesterday. When they wouldn't reconsider your firing, I decided I didn't want to work there anymore. And when David called to tell me about this new clinic, I knew that's where I belonged. David introduced the young woman as Lisa Patel, a healthcare lawyer. Lisa is helping us with all the legal details of opening the clinic, he explained. For the next 2 hours, they discussed the plans. The clinic would offer urgent care and basic medical services. They would accept all insurance plans and offer affordable rates for people without insurance. We want to create a place where both patients and staff are treated with respect, Dr. Rodriguez said, where experienced nurses like Sarah can use their judgment without fear. Lisa, the lawyer, explained the legal structure. We'll set up the clinic as a nonprofit community health center. That makes us eligible for certain grants and tax benefits. Sarah listened carefully to everyone's ideas. She started to see how her years of nursing experience could help shape this new place. When they asked for her input on the layout of the exam rooms, she suggested practical changes based on her work with patients. "See," David said, "this is exactly why we need you, Sarah. You know what works for real patients." As the meeting was ending, David turned to Sarah. "We haven't discussed your role yet. We'd like you to be the director of nursing. You would help hire other nurses, create care protocols, and work directly with patients." Sarah felt a lump in her throat. Director of nursing. A week ago, she thought her nursing career was over forever. Now she was being offered a leadership role. "I don't know what to say," Sarah whispered. "Say yes," Maria urged, squeezing her hand. "This is your chance to practice nursing the way it should be done." Sarah looked around the table at these people who believed in her. They weren't just offering her a job. They were offering her a chance to help change healthcare in their community. "When can I start?" Sarah asked, her voice growing stronger. Everyone around the table cheered. David grinned and handed Sarah a key. "How about we go see your new clinic right now?" The building for the new clinic stood on the corner of Main Street and Oak Avenue. It was a 2-story brick building that had once been a doctor's office many years ago. As David parked the car, Sarah felt butterflies in her stomach. This would be her new workplace, if they could make it happen. Inside, the building was dusty and empty. Old wallpaper peeled from the walls. The floor tiles were cracked in places. But Sarah could see the potential. The rooms were large and bright with big windows. "It needs a lot of work," David admitted as they walked through. "But the structure is solid. We had it checked last week." Sarah walked from room to room, already picturing how each space could be used. "This front area would make a good waiting room," she said. "And these rooms along the back would be perfect for exam rooms." Dr. Rodriguez pointed to a large room at the end of the hall. "This could be our treatment room for minor emergencies." As they explored the second floor, Sarah's mind raced with ideas. "We could use this area for staff offices and a break room," she suggested, "and maybe a small conference room for meetings." By the time they finished the tour, Sarah felt excited despite the building's poor condition. This place could become something special, a clinic that put patients first. Back downstairs, David unrolled a large paper on an old desk. It was a timeline for the clinic project. "We want to open in 3 months," he said. "It's a tight schedule, but we think we can do it." 3 months seemed impossible as Sarah looked around at all the work needed, but something inside her welcomed the challenge. "We'll need to hire more staff," Sarah said. "At least 4 more nurses to start, and office staff too." David nodded. "That's your first job as director of nursing. We trust your judgment to find the right people." That same afternoon, they met with a construction company to discuss renovations. The workers could start the very next day. Things were moving fast, much faster than Sarah had expected. As they left the building, a black car pulled up. A man in an expensive suit stepped out. Sarah recognized him immediately. It was Mr. Peterson, the hospital director who had fired her. "Mr. Chen," Peterson said, ignoring Sarah, "I heard rumors about this project. I hoped they weren't true." David stood tall. "They're not rumors. Frank, we're opening a new clinic." Peterson frowned. "This town isn't big enough for 2 medical facilities. City Hospital has served this community for 60 years. And now the community will have a choice," Dr. Rodriguez said, stepping forward. Competition is good for everyone. Peterson finally looked at Sarah. I'm surprised at you, Dr. Rodriguez, throwing away your reputation to work with someone who breaks medical protocols. Before Dr. Rodriguez could answer, Michael Chen joined the group, having just arrived in another car. You mean the nurse who saved my life? Michael asked. The one who knew more about my condition than the doctor did. Peterson's face reddened. The hospital has rules for a reason. We can't have staff making their own decisions about patient care. Maybe that's why you're losing your best people, Maria said, walking up behind them. 3 other nurses from City Hospital stood with her. Peterson looked shocked. Maria, what are you doing here? Meeting about my new job, Maria said. I'm not the only one leaving City Hospital. Word is getting around about what happened to Sarah. Peterson's face darkened. This won't work, you know. The hospital board won't stand for this competition. David Chen smiled calmly. The clinic is happening, Frank. In fact, I just got approval from the city this morning. We'll be open in 3 months. Peterson got back in his car without another word. As he drove away, Sarah felt a mix of emotions. She hadn't expected to face her old boss so soon. Don't worry about him, David said, seeing her concerned face. He's just afraid of losing more staff and patients. Sarah nodded, but she knew this was just the beginning. Opening the new clinic wouldn't be easy, especially with City Hospital working against them. Let's get back to work, she said with new determination. We have a clinic to build. The next 3 months were the busiest of Sarah's life. Each day brought new challenges and tasks as they worked to turn the old building into a modern medical clinic. Construction workers filled the place, tearing down walls and building new ones. Electricians installed new wiring. Plumbers fixed old pipes and added new ones. Sarah worked from morning until night. She interviewed nurses, ordered medical supplies, and helped design the layout of each room. Her years of experience at City Hospital proved valuable as she knew exactly what worked best for patient care. Word about the new clinic spread through town. More staff from City Hospital wanted to join. By the end of the first month, 3 more doctors and 5 nurses had quit their jobs to work with Sarah. City Hospital fought back. They put ads in the local newspaper offering higher pay for nurses and doctors. They sent letters to local businesses warning about the unproven quality of the new clinic. Mr. Peterson even went on local radio to talk about the dangers of medical staff who don't follow proper procedures. They're scared, Dr. Rodriguez told Sarah one day as they unpacked boxes of new medical equipment. They know people will choose a clinic that cares about patients over one that only cares about rules. Sarah tried to stay focused on the work, but she couldn't help feeling worried. What if people believed the hospital's warnings? What if no patients came to their clinic? David Chen remained confident. The best marketing is word of mouth, he said. People in this town know you, Sarah. They trust you. That's worth more than any advertisement. As the opening day got closer, the building transformed. Fresh paint brightened the walls. New flooring replaced the cracked tiles. Modern medical equipment filled the exam rooms. Signs went up outside. First Care Clinic. Patients come first. The day before the grand opening, Sarah stood in the middle of the waiting room, hardly believing what they had accomplished. The dusty old building was now a warm, welcoming clinic. Comfortable chairs filled the waiting area. Children's books and toys sat in a corner play section. Plants and cheerful artwork decorated the walls. What do you think? David asked, standing beside her. It's beautiful, Sarah said. Better than I imagined. None of this would have happened without you, David told her. You inspired all of us. That night, Sarah couldn't sleep. Tomorrow would show if all their hard work would pay off. Would patients come? Or would they stay with City Hospital, the place they had known for years? Sarah got to the clinic at 6 a.m., 2 hours before opening. She wanted to check everything one last time. To her surprise, Maria and the other nurses were already there. We couldn't sleep either, Maria said with a smile. As they made final preparations, Dr. Rodriguez arrived with fresh coffee and donuts for everyone. "It's a big day," he said. "We should start with a good breakfast." At 7:30, Sarah peeked out the front window and gasped. A line of people stood outside the clinic door, waiting for it to open. Some had brought chairs to sit in. Others stood drinking coffee and talking. There were young parents with children, older people with canes, and people of all ages in between. "David," Sarah called. "You need to see this." David came to the window and smiled broadly. "I told you people trust you, Sarah." At exactly 8 a.m., Sarah unlocked the front door. An older gentleman with a cane stepped in first. It was Mr. Wilson, the patient Sarah had cared for after his car accident. "Welcome to First Care Clinic," Sarah said, her voice full of emotion. Mr. Wilson smiled. "I wouldn't go anywhere else, Sarah. You took good care of me before. I know you'll do it again." One by one, people entered the clinic. Many were familiar faces, former patients from City Hospital who had followed the nurses and doctors they trusted. By noon, they had seen 32 patients. By closing time at 6 p.m., the number had grown to 78. As Sarah updated patient records that evening, she felt a deep sense of satisfaction. They had done it. First Care Clinic was real, and people were coming. David brought in a cake as the staff gathered for a small celebration. "To a successful first day," he said, raising a paper cup of juice. "And to Sarah, who made it all possible." Everyone cheered and clapped. Sarah felt tears in her eyes. 3 months ago, she had thought her nursing career was over. Now she stood in her own clinic, surrounded by people who shared her vision of what healthcare should be. 1 year had passed since First Care Clinic opened its doors. What had started as a small urgent care center had grown into a thriving medical practice. They had added 3 more doctors and 6 more nurses. They now had a small lab that could run most common tests. They even offered Saturday hours, which no other medical facility in town did. Sarah sat in her office, looking at the clinic's 1-year report. They had treated over 15,000 patients in their first year. Their patient satisfaction scores were nearly perfect. The clinic was doing so well that they were planning to add a second floor with more exam rooms. There was a knock at her door. "Come in," Sarah called. Michael Chen entered with a small gift bag. "Happy work anniversary," he said, placing the bag on her desk. Sarah smiled. Michael had graduated from college and now worked part-time at the clinic, helping with the business side while applying to medical school. "You remembered. How could I forget? If not for you, I wouldn't be here at all." Michael had said this many times, but Sarah never tired of hearing it. Sarah opened the gift bag and pulled out a beautiful silver picture frame. Inside was a photo of the entire clinic staff, taken at their holiday party. Written at the bottom in small letters was, "First Care Family." "It's perfect," Sarah said, setting it on her desk next to a photo of her with David and Maria on opening day. Michael sat down across from her. "My dad wants to know if you've had any more trouble from City Hospital." Sarah shook her head. "Not lately. I think they finally realized we're not going away." The first few months after opening had been difficult. City Hospital had tried everything to make the clinic fail. They had spread rumors about the quality of care. They had tried to block insurance companies from working with First Care. At one point, they even tried to get the city to revoke the clinic's medical license based on technicalities. But the community had stood by First Care Clinic. Patients wrote letters of support. Local businesses refused to pull their support. And when Mr. Peterson had personally attacked Sarah's reputation at a town meeting, so many people had stood up to defend her that he had left the meeting early, red-faced and silent. Even more surprisingly, things had begun to change at City Hospital. With so many of their best staff gone to First Care, they had been forced to rethink some policies. Sarah had heard from former colleagues that the hospital had created a new protocol allowing nurses to question medication orders if they spotted potential problems. They had even started a program to recognize staff who showed exceptional judgment in patient care. You changed things, Sarah, Michael said, as if reading her thoughts. Not just here, but at the hospital too. You made healthcare better for everyone in town. Sarah was about to answer when her office phone rang. She picked it up, surprised to hear Mr. Peterson's voice. Ms. Jones, this is Frank Peterson. I was hoping we could meet to discuss something important. Sarah raised her eyebrows at Michael. What would you like to discuss, Mr. Peterson? I'd rather talk in person. Could you come to my office tomorrow morning? Sarah thought for a moment. I'd prefer if you came to the clinic. I have patients scheduled all day. There was a pause. Very well. I'll be there at noon. After hanging up, Sarah told Michael about the call. What do you think he wants? Michael shrugged. Maybe he's finally going to apologize for firing you. Sarah laughed. I doubt that. The next day at noon, Mr. Peterson arrived at the clinic. He looked uncomfortable as he sat in the waiting room among patients who recognized him. When Sarah brought him to her office, he seemed surprised by how professional and organized everything was. Your clinic has done well, he said, looking around. Yes, we have, Sarah agreed. Now, what can I help you with? Mr. Peterson cleared his throat. The hospital board has been discussing the future of healthcare in our town. We've realized that fighting between our facilities doesn't serve the community well. Sarah waited, curious where this was going. We'd like to propose a partnership, he continued. Not a merger. You would stay independent, but we'd like to create a system where our facilities work together. Sharing resources, coordinating care, maybe even sharing staff training. Sarah was stunned. This was the last thing she had expected. Why now? She asked. Mr. Peterson sighed. Honestly, because you've shown us a better way to do things. Your patient satisfaction scores are the highest in the state. Your approach to letting experienced nurses use their judgment has resulted in fewer errors, not more. We want to learn from you. Sarah couldn't help but smile. The man who had fired her for using her judgment was now asking to learn from her approach. I'll discuss it with my team, she said. But I think working together could be good for everyone, especially the patients. As she walked Mr. Peterson out, Sarah saw Michael watching from across the hall. He gave her a thumbs up and a big smile. Sarah felt a deep sense of peace. The journey that had begun with her being fired for saving Michael's life had come full circle. She had not only found a new path for herself, but had helped create positive change in healthcare for the entire community. Sometimes, doing the right thing came at a cost. But as Sarah had learned, it could also lead to something better than she ever imagined.